it dips whenever the kick drum hits. Hi, I'm Quincas and I'm a synth and bass guy. And today I'm really excited to talk to you about the Golden Master pedal by Endorphins. Endorphins is a synthesizer company mainly. I've done a lot of video reviews of some of their Eurorack modules, but I've also done a review of their Ghost pedal as they're getting into the pedal world. Ghost pedal is a multi-processor with built-in modulation, different routing capabilities, distortion, filter, reverb, delay, cabinet simulation, a whole bunch of things. But we're going to leave it out for now because we're going to focus on their Golden Master pedal, which is a mastering processor, a multiband compressor, a mid-side processor, an equalizer, and it's based on those 90s all-in-one mastering processors that were used just to master music in general. It's a really great pedal to be the end of your chain. For example, if you're using a bunch of different sources. I actually used it in my large pedal board for my expanded bass set that I did at MexSynthCo, the Mexican synth event a couple of months ago, where I have the Percons drum machine, I have the Continuum Mini, the bass going through the HX Stomp pedal board, as well as through a bass synthesizer pedal. So all of those different sources mixed together in a small mixer to just go to front of house. I felt like it was really good to have a bit of mastering going on. Multi-band processing and the EQ most of all, and the mid-side processing is really nice for recording. In a live venue, you won't hear too much of that. Usually live venues might even go mono, right? And people are not going to be in the sweet spot. But this is a great tool, not just for live, but also for the studio. And I found that it works really well as a bass preamp too, because it has enough gain that you can plug in a passive instrument and boost it up to where you need it. And it has balanced outputs. Right now, I have one of the outputs going through this cable I made that's a TRS on one tip and Canon XLR on the other tip. I do have another cable of these laying around somewhere, but I couldn't find it, so I just used another TRS, two TRS going straight into my interface. But you can also, if you're running mono, you can use one of these outputs to your amplifier on stage, and the other one to the front of house or to the mixer. So it's really flexible, it's really useful, it's not so expensive. I think it's 295 euro. So it's about in the price range of a lot of other kind of bass preamp DI boxes. Even though it's made to do more than just process a bass guitar, I think it's useful for that as well. Let me play just the bass. This is my EHB 1505S by Ibanez. It's a short scale version of their new headless basses. Sounds like this, just straight in, no processing at all. Now I'm going to turn on the Golden Master as I have it set. And right now I have it pretty subtle because I really don't think it needs much. The space doesn't need too much. Just a little bit of a low boost, some compression. Right? Now you have a view meter, which right now it's measuring the input, right? And I have it so if I pull really hard, it hits that +6 there. Otherwise, it's staying in the middle. Right? And if I hit the VU button, it lights up and now it's measuring the output volume. has an output limiter, a brick wall as well, so there's no danger that you go over that +6 over there at the main output. No matter what you do, you're keeping your level tamed so it won't damage speakers or piss off the sound engineer or anything like that. So that's cool, right? And now it has 3 modes of operation. One is EQ, the other one is compression, and the other one is mid-side processing. And all of them are 3-band processes, right? Where you have low, mid, and high for each one, and you have different kinds of controls for each one. So with the EQ, I can actually mute each band. So I can, for example, mute mids and highs and get very quickly have kind of a dub reggae kind of a sound, right? I can mute all of them and there's no sound. I can just let the mids come out. Just kind of a cool effect, like kind of like the sounds coming out of a phone or an old radio. Which can be nice for layering same bass in overdubs and have them not fight each other, right? Or even just the highs. We don't hear much because those are really high frequencies. So let's turn them all back on. And here you have the boost and cut for each band, right? So if I cut the low, let's boost it. Here's the middle, right? Here's no boost or cut. And here's with the boost. It doesn't go crazy. It's not a super incredible amount of boost. Because it is a mastering processor after all, you don't want to go overboard with the adjustments here. This sounds really clean. This is 24-bit 96 kilohertz I/O, but internally it's running at 32 bits, so it's a really high definition device. Even though it's digital, you're not going to get any digitaliness out of it at all. It's just the sound of your bass. I can cut some mids here, for example, and even highs. Let's bring those back. So yeah, that's the EQ. It's a subtle EQ. It's really just for fine-tuning, getting perfect sound, maybe adjusting to the sound of the room, to the mix, right? Now the next mode up is compression. Now you have a couple of different controls, right? With everything in the middle, you have what they call normal compression, right? And then if you turn right or clockwise from the center position, the compression gets a little more extreme, and that's a bunch of different parameters that go together, so you don't have to be adjusting, ratio and attack and decay and whatnot. It go all together. It's just more or less compressed, right? So you can maybe have the low band be compressed just a little bit, the mid band be a little more extreme, right? And maybe we don't need to compress the high band at all, and you get this kind of a thing. So that's sustain. It's mostly the mid that's sustaining, right? So that's a little more interesting, experimental. Maybe let's bring that mid band back to the middle here. And the threshold is a global threshold, right? So if you want just a subtle compression effect, you can leave the threshold high, and then you really need to dig in to feel the compression. Or if you want it to compress more readily with less volume from the bass, you can bring the threshold down. Really nice multiband compression there. And even if they're all at the same, they're still reacting differently because of the content, right? The low, the mid, and the high coming out of your bass are different, and therefore the compressor will be acting differently upon each one of these frequency ranges, right? So here is bypassed. Right, and then on. One thing that this thing has that's really cool and interesting and unusual for a bass processing unit is the sidechain compression, right? You might have heard of sidechain compression, something used in audio engineering. And basically, it's the ducking effect. It's, for example, when you send a kick drum to the sidechain compressor, whenever the kick hits, it'll lower the sound of the bass, lower the volume of the bass to make room for that kick drum, so they're not fighting each other in the same frequency range. And that can make for some really cool rhythmic effects. And the way you set that up on this is I already have an output, the kick drum output from my LXR drum machine here is going into the mixer, right? And also in parallel into the sidechain input here, which is also an expression pedal input. You can use an expression pedal to affect parameters in different bands as well, but we're not going to do that today. We're just going to check out the sidechain. So the way we set that up is, again, the VU button becomes a shift button. So if I hold it and press mode, now the LEDs for the mode here, they invert. Right? The LED that's unlit represents the mode you're in. So when you see two LEDs lit here, that means you're in sidechain mode, right? So no matter how many times I press this mode button now, you always have two LEDs lit, and therefore the unlit one is the one that represents the mode that you're in. But basically now I can again hold the shift button, which is the VU button here, and set how much I want each band to react to the incoming sidechain signal and in which direction, because you can also make something get louder when it receives a signal in the sidechain. So I was experimenting with this earlier, and I really like the effect of lowering the low frequencies, right? So they don't fight with the kick drum, but raising the mids, because the mids are not going to fight with the kick. And that way you can still hear the bass very presently, right? But it won't be super low. It'll be more mid, right? And we'll keep the highs in the middle. So now if I hit start here on my drum machine, let's play the bass. Hear how it dips whenever the kick drum hits. Maybe more radical with the low cut here. More radical with the mid boost as well. So I feel like it's kind of like an interesting kind of auto tremolo effect, right? Which is synchronized to the kick drum in this case, or whatever you send to the sidechain input. And you can emphasize or de-emphasize the frequency range to taste and set the amount with the knobs, which is really cool. This is definitely something you will not find on a traditional, normal, run-of-the-mill kind of bass preamp pedal. The last thing I want to talk about is the mid-side processing, which usually on the bass you wouldn't use, right? Because the bass is mono in the center, and that's how it should be most of the time. But sometimes maybe you're playing solo bass, improvising, playing chords and stuff, and then maybe you like to have a little reverb, a little ping pong delay going, right? In which case, to have some mid-size processing expanding the sound stage, making the stereo more extreme might be interesting, right? And that's also set by band. So for example, if I go now to the mid-side mode here and I turn them all down, in fact, it can work that way as well. So if you have a lot of stereo processing in your unit and you're playing at a place that's just mono, you can use the mid-side processor on this pedal to center everything. And that way you can send just one output to the front of house without losing the other side. So that's one use. The other use is to emphasize the stereo, right? So now I just sent the mid-band to the mid-side processor. And you can send the high band to but I'm keeping the low band in the middle, right? So that the low frequencies are still thunderous in the center. Of course, I can also expand those as well if I want to. Okay, low band in the middle, mid band expanded, high band expanded. Let's turn off, bypass the whole pedal. Of course, the ping pong delay is still quite stereo. It's hard left and right. You might hear this effect more drastically if you're using maybe a chorus pedal or a stereo flanger or anything like that, which I don't have set up right now. And pedal on. It's a pedal to be used tastefully and subtly. In my opinion, it really gives you that extra 10% of perfection at the end of a chain. It can also be used as a very effective direct box for the bass, giving you multiband compression, a little bit of EQ, balanced outputs, and an input gain. That's it for today. I hope you liked the video. If you so, hit like, subscribe, or join the channel, or join my Patreon. And I hope you like the Golden Master pedal. It's actually a really, really cool pedal to just have in the studio in general for multiple purposes, including using it as a bass preamp. See you soon. Stay musical.